Pennsylvania, the Keystone State. Yet could it also be the keystone to unlocking many of the unknown mysteries? In this show, we'll be discussing all of the haunts, local legends, and unknown phenomena that have happened right here in our very own backyard. I'm your host, Matt Boyer, a senior investigator in the paranormal field.
And I'm Jacob Bacasa, a junior investigator.
And this is Unearthing the Unknown. Jake, the lights are off. The door is locked. We are ready. We are shut in for our investigation.
Boyer.
What?
I don't know what I'm feeling, dude. I can't really see anything, and I feel a little.
If you would have brought that headlamp like I told you, you would be able to see stuff.
But I feel like I feel digital all of a sudden. What happened? Where are we? I'm scared.
You know what, Jake? To answer that question for you and for our listeners, you can't see our faces. We are sitting in the WSVC radio station here at St. Vincent College for a different kind of episode, and.
He finally listened to me about the cold. We're not going to do it. We're not going to be freezing whenever we record these things now.
No, it's more so that you wanted to do the story of the lady of our prom, which we will do once weather gets better. But which is just going back here, Lady of Our Prom is a statue of Mary that was built like back in the 70s, and it looks like she's ready to go to the prom. She cries blood, but really you can't get that to happen when it's snowing outside.
That was the statue that we were actually looking for the night we had the cemetery incident.
Yeah, with your shadow figure, skinwalker.
Whatever that thing was. Yeah. Maybe a deer.
Yeah, so ultimately, because it started to snow this morning when we already had this planned out, ready to go, we had to make a last-minute choice. So Jake and I, we've actually been talking about this for a little bit of time now.
We've been pondering. It's something that I've brought up many a times in the episodes because he keeps bringing up all these terms and everything. And we finally sat down and decided, you know what?
It's time that we teach you guys what a lot of this stuff means.
And really myself, because the more I've gotten into this, the more I've been thinking, what? Just what?
Yeah.
Because,
well,
go ahead.
Yeah,
Sorry.
So, and I know that's one thing. So actually one thing that I decided to bring, so this will be a mini-series where we will do maybe a chapter each episode and just talk about this. I was going
to say, you got to explain the book.
Yeah, so the book that I brought in here, Jake, you guys can't see it, but Jake can see it. First off, it's very well loved.
From my observations, yes, that seems to be the case.
Before you make any comments about the name here, let me go through this and explain a little bit on why I have this book.
Okay.
It's called The Other Side, A Teen's Guide to Ghost Hunting and the Paranormal by Marley Gibson, Patrick Burns, and Dave Schreier. First off,
you're right. That name does make me raise an eyebrow.
It's because it says A Teen's Guide, isn't it? Yes.
I would take it more seriously if it didn't say that. Like, if it was like, a guide to the paranormal, but it's like, it sounds tacky, if that makes sense.
Well, would you like to know why it's called that?
You know what? I would.
So, this book was given to me by my mentor, Holly, and this is when she first brought me into the paranormal, teaching me everything. So this is for young paranormal investigators. And then, you can find other books and stuff for once you're more trained up, you get more to a higher level. This is more of like your basic guide for kids that, and when I say kids, I'm talking more like
mildly interested, like people mildly interested in.
Well, I'm also talking like teenagers here.
Fair.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, we're not going to have some 5-year-old go running around a paranormal investigation.
Well, obviously, but like to me, it sounds like one of those like guidebooks, like this is going to sound a very odd description, but like one of those like guidebooks for a video game, like Minecraft that you see in like bookstores or whatever.
Hey, I still have the original Minecraft construction books.
Well, yeah, like those. Like it sounds like one of those things.
Those are like legendary.
It just. I don't know. It seemed, again, tacky, but
well,
I'll let you...
again, so this was the first book, and this is actually the book that I was taught through. This became my textbook when I was under Holly Cataldo's wing as kind of her assistant, trainee, whatever you want to call me, to her. And this is where I learned a lot of things. So, really, this is where I want to start you off with it before we get into anything too big. Sorry, guys, I'm kind of hungry right now, so I'm going to snack while we talk here, just because we're not having to be...
How very unprofessional of you.
Oh, come on.
You don't eat during this. You don't eat during the shoots, brother.
It's just a tiny snack. But let's get back here.
You better not say anything when you're talking or when you're eating.
Oh God, no. So yeah, this is pretty much the book that I learned everything through. So I thought this would be a great way just to easily explain the paranormal more to you. So being able to talk about the terms, talk about some of our practices that we do, tools, all kinds of stuff like that.
Yeah.
So in a way, yes, this is going to be a guide to the paranormal for dummies, aka my wonderful junior assistant here.
Hi.
Anyhow, let me actually just read the back here because you brought this up, and I think that this is kind of funny. So there's just two little paragraphs here on the back, and it says...
Little synopsis.
Well, kind of, yeah. So you want to be a ghost hunter? Maybe you're a budding psychic. Maybe you're a skeptic. Maybe you want to know if it's just grandma playing with the lights or faulty wiring. But whatever the reason, hunting for ghosts can be exciting and fun. But before you begin, there are many things you need to know. Here to pass on their words of wisdom are three of today's leading paranormal investigators. Marley Gibson, author of Ghost Huntress books, Patrick Burns, star of True TV's Haunting Evidence, and Dave Schrader, host of Darkness Radio. These three have seen all manner of ghostly things, the fun, the decidedly not fun, and the fake. And they can tell you all you need to know to be a good ghost hunter. So get your digital cameras, your EMF readers, and your pendulums, and be prepared for an experience like no other. See, I just like the idea.
I'm two of those things. Well, I'm three of those things on that list. One, a skeptic. Two, technically a sidekick. And three, a guy who has a digital camcorder who will take it anywhere if it means getting a found footage-esque.
You sure you're not grandma playing with the lights or faulty wiring?
Last I checked, I thought so.
Yeah.
I thought not, but
yeah.
Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm totally wrong.
Maybe you are a grandma.
That would be a shock to my life. It would be.
Yeah, anyhow, because we know you're not a psychic, but we do know you're a skeptic. And maybe you aren't the grandma playing with the faulty wiring, but you want to know next time if it is your grandmother playing with the faulty wiring.
I've never had to experience that, so maybe I will in the future. I don't know. We'll see. Whatever. We'll see.
Yeah. So, like I said, this is just a lot of collective observations from these three who put together a huge book here that talk about everything from looking at a lot of the terms. So, for instance, EMF readers, EVP, AVP, stuff like that. Or
there's more than just the
oh, there's a number of them.
The
yeah.
EMF reader.
Yeah.
God.
Yeah. Looking at all the different tools. So your different EMF readers, from your K2s to stuff that's more complex, like your REM pods or your Mr. Ds, anything like that. Yeah, there's a lot. Being able to talk about some of our practices. One thing that I think will be very interesting is when we actually talk about the different forms of spirits, because there's more than just, like, some people will just say, oh, it's a ghost. Well, there's multiple different kinds. So
the more I listen to this, the more skeptical I become, because and the reason I say that is mainly because ghosts to me just seem like one of those things that could not, cannot, whatever you want to call it, be quantified in any way. Well, the fact that people have made attempts is admirable. I'm not saying that I'm skeptical in the methods, because to me it just seems like whatever a ghost is, whatever spirits are, whatever demons are, whatever you believe in, to me all of that just seems like so much it doesn't feel like it should breach science.
You know, I guess say this now, and that I'm only interrupting you here to call you out on this.
No, you're fine.
Because a friend of mine who actually used to go here to St. Vincent, she was on the basketball team. I've known her for many, many years. She was in a class that I had. It was a speech class where we had to give some kind of speech each class, we'd write it.
Public speaking.
Public speaking.
Yeah.
What happened was we were supposed to do a demonstration speech, so it was more of a demonstration presentation. So I decided to do how to do a small little paranormal investigation using the K2 meters, using Ghost Box, and using Phasma Box.
Right there in the classroom?
Yeah.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah. I prepared the classroom ahead of time, don't you worry.
I mean, I'm just surprised that you were able to do that to begin with, because I thought it was location based. But anyway, I'll let you continue.
Well, actually, there was a reason why I decided to do that, and it's because my high school was built on the grounds where our town founder's house used to be before it burnt to the ground.
Oh wait, this was in your high school?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I must have missed that part. Jeez.
Yeah, this wasn't here.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. That makes sense.
Yeah. So this was back in high school, and I performed one right there in the classroom. And funny enough, she was a huge skeptic, and after that presentation, she's no longer a skeptic. Because what was amazing is I was talking to Spirit through Phasmabox about something completely random. And here I said, I have the entire class here. They're all interested to hear what you have to say. And then out of nowhere did one of the spirits say, "Hi, Ella. How's your grandpa doing?" Now, her grandpa is the vice chairman to the historical society I work for back home.
Okay.
And we own two of the oldest still standing buildings in town that both have a lot of paranormal activity in them.
Okay.
So it's just kind of amazing that I didn't even mention anything about her, and yet that spirit came around and was just like, "Hey, how's it going? How's your grandpa?" Because they know who her grandpa would be then. Not to mention that his the business he runs is right across the train tracks on the other side of the hill from the high school.
I guess if it's instances like that, I guess.
Yeah.
But like,
well, I'm just saying that you're coming in as a skeptic, but there's a very good chance that after we start doing the actual investigations here in maybe a week or two,
well, and in
that
the
might
end,
change.
there's something that I heard once where it's like, at some point or another, there could be the moment where like what we think is magic ultimately just ends up actually being future technology, like, and where that borders between science and magic, what have you. But like, if you showed a modern man potentially what could be considered magic, he'd just call it like, oh, future tech or whatever. Like,
Does that mean that Harry Potter is futuristic?
I mean, well, I guess technically not, but like,
That was a joke.
Yeah, considering like the metaphor, it's like I don't know, like it's. We'll see. It's. I have a lot of thoughts.
But so we're already about 12 minutes into this.
Yeah,
so
let's actually get into the introductions.
Before we actually dive deep in, I wanted the first episode to be questions that you have about different things.
Okay.
So what ones, like, what do you really want to know right off the basis? Like, are you interested in hearing more about the different kinds of spirits, about the terms, about the different...
Let's start off spirits, because I was going to talk more about, like, EMF stuff, but then I was like, you know what, if spirit's classification, I think, is a good place to start, because then it'd be like, oh, we can maybe build the foundation off from there.
Oh, yeah.
So...
Well, actually, you know what, I'm looking at this... And I know exactly where we need to start here.
Just to start, how many classifications, I guess, are of spirit is there? Like,
so if you remember when I was telling the story of my first investigation, what was that? 2 weeks ago? 3 weeks ago?
Somewhere around there, yeah.
Yeah, something like that. It was our first episode back after break, so about 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
We would say that would be Class A, though personally I'd probably classify that as Double A, just because it was raw energy, it was brand new.
So they're like batteries.
It was...
Come on.
You know what? I ought to whack you with this book for this.
Hey, I'm not the one who classified these things, all right? I'm just making an observation.
A, B, C is what I've always kind of known it to be.
Okay.
Yeah. Though,
then what's... I guess we'll get into it.
Yeah.
About double A, or if there's triple A, or whatever. Whatever else there is.
So, actually, just because you made a point here, and I'm looking at this, I think this is a good place to start, and then we'll dive a little bit more into the different kinds of spirits.
All right.
Chapter 11, A Healthy Dose of Skepticism. The dictionary defines skeptic in the following ways: a person who questions the validity or authenticity of something as purporting it or to be factual. Number 2, a person who maintains a doubting attitude as toward values, plans, statements, or the character of others. Well, we know you're a skeptic because you are always questioning my character.
Hardy har har there, Matthew Boyer. Let's continue.
Yeah. So, a lot of people think that the idea of, and I'm not going to read this word for word.
Because we'd be here all day. Yeah.
Well, also copyright.
You know what? Also that. I did not think of that, but go ahead.
You're welcome. So pretty much, like, a lot of people look at being a skeptic or being skeptical in a negative way. They kind of think that it's not a good thing for being in the paranormal, being in that field of practice. When in fact, a lot more people need to be skeptical. And why I say that, coming from personal background, is when I've been on a few investigations, I will have some of the other investigators, for instance, when we were there at Kane Manor, they would come up and say stuff to me, and they would question all these things. And they'd say, oh, well, you just showed us a map not too long ago that this room used to be the nursery. So, because the family was full of doctors, maybe this is where their patients came up to give birth. No. No. They wouldn't, one, give birth at the mansion. They would have gone to the hospital in town. Two, the nursery was for the kids. It's not like a nursery that we think of today. The nursery back in the 1800s and early 1900s was just considered where the young kids lived.
That's how I always considered a nursery. What is
Yeah.
there another?
A nursery would be more for, like, newborn babies. Like how you have the crib and everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. But a nursery can actually really go up until the kid is around in their early teens, like 10, 11, 12, something like that.
That rings a bell. I think it was from like one of the. I think of the original Peter Pan animated movie, right?
Exactly.
But
Exactly.
I mean, I'd never considered it'd be the place where you give. Anyway, it's
Yeah.
broaching a topic for like a completely different
Well,
conversation.
ultimately, yeah, I was being skeptical because they're going off and saying, oh, well, this person could have been having a baby here. Oh, blah, blah, blah. And I had to continue to tell people, no. First off, there was a small doctor's office in the mansion, and it was on the entire other side of the house, down on the first floor, and they didn't really treat anything like big, like a birth.
But that doesn't sound like it has anything to do with ghosts.
But why I'm saying this is because the paranormal investigators were trying to make all these claims, and I had to be the skeptic.
Okay.
Yeah, because they're trying to say all this stuff, acting like they knew better than I did about a house that I've wanted to live in myself since I was probably 4.
Yeah, I guess if you're like the quote expert. On
Yeah,
the,
I was the historian. I was the one bringing all the historical evidence there.
Okay. That makes a lot more sense.
Yeah. So having somebody and having more people be skeptic of things, because not always is every little thing going to be paranormal. In fact, just another example that I'll give from that weekend was at one point when me and a buddy of mine were staying up during the night that we didn't, well, when we pulled an all-nighter just because of what had happened up
That
in our
night,
room.
yeah.
Night 2. At one point, one of the investigators thought that some spirit was moving the drapes, like the curtains and the little pull strings for the blinds and everything.
Draft.
It was a floor vent that was blowing hot air up. But for probably a good 5 to 6 minutes, this investigator was thinking, oh yeah, this is paranormal. And I had to say, no, it's not.
This is spooky.
Yeah. So having some skeptics and being skeptical of some things, especially when they're kind of more blatantly obvious, is actually a very good thing. And it does you and your team, the entire investigative field, good having a couple skeptics. So that's one thing. You can't believe every single claim. You have to kind of understand a few things.
Okay.
And being a responsible investigator, really you should think about the following things. You should, and this is coming from what I always learned from Holly and from this textbook here, is always be questioning, always seek the truth, and always remain objective. So, yeah, you want to find out what is the purpose of the spirit still being there.
You want to get to the bottom of this.
Yeah. So you want to always be questioning every little thing. So yeah, if you have somebody saying, oh, well, this is what happened. Well, I don't think so. Exactly. And you've done that with me a few times. And I don't criticize you for it because actually that's what you want.
Okay, okay.
I might give you a little bit of criticism, but that's just the fun
Well,
that we have. Yeah.
that's the whole
Yeah.
dynamic we have.
Yeah. Always seeking the truth. Yeah, you're trying to find out what spirit is looking for. What is their reason that they're still kind of trapped on this plane? Why they haven't moved over to the next world? And then, yeah, always remain objective. So you want to stay to your objectives. You want to stay on target. You don't want to be going off and having all kinds of other stuff happen, or just because things can go bad.
But yeah.
So another thing is that if you allow your personal beliefs to influence an investigation, you can taint the entire process. So that's another thing there, is really you can be skeptical and respectful at the same time, and that's very important for when you're doing an investigation.
Well, I've been that way because, like, although I might be skeptical, if this stuff is
Right.
real, I don't want any blowback.
Right. And see, for me, being a Roman Catholic and also being an investigator, I don't allow my personal beliefs in my religion or in politics or in anything
really. Yeah.
to get in the way. In fact, again, going back, we saw that happen with my first investigation because I believed that Sashi Kane had committed the murder. When he was, in fact, acquitted, there wasn't enough evidence, and actually looking at the evidence and everything, I don't believe he did it anymore. But I took that belief and was questioning about it, wanting him to kind of confess to what I wanted. I was kind of hoping he would, and that tainted the process.
I guess that applies to me as well because of my hope that, like, oh, maybe I actually did see something, but in all likelihood it might have just been like a deer or something that night that we were on that road. But I mean, it's fair to say that, like, I guess a lot of skepticism is greatly appreciated.
Yeah.
Not appreciated, but needed.
Yeah.
I don't know how many would appreciate it, but...
Well, and see, so as a skeptic, you or anybody else would most likely assume that a lot of the ghostly claims are just misconceptions or, overreactive imagination stuff. Yeah, coincidences, all that kind of stuff. Now, does this mean that people are trying to mislead or trick you? No. It means that, as you're awake at night, they hear an unfamiliar sound or view a strange anomaly, they're confused.
Okay.
Yeah. So, it could be that, you're a fan of different shows like Taps or,
Ghost Adventures.
I think that's the same thing. I think that's the one that's kind of the same. I think Taps is the name of the group, but the show's called Ghost Adventures. But like all the paranormal stuff that you see on the History Channel or on Travel Channel, that kind of stuff. So it could be that you're a fan of that, and imaginations that you get after watching so many episodes are just getting the better of you. So you start leaping to conclusions. Now, as an investigator, our job is to remain objective and review everything. Review all the evidence. So the situations you're in, the stories that you've heard, the surroundings, what factual evidence you might have, that kind of stuff. And more than half of paranormal claims can be dismissed within a few minutes of arriving at a location. So again, going back there to the nursery one. Yeah, it's literally where the kids grew up when they were visiting grandma. It's not where some lady off the street is just going to walk into a private home while she's in labor, walk up a huge stairwell and down the other end of the hall to give birth. No. You're going to go to the hospital or be in your own bedroom at home. You're not going to go to the founding family's house for something like that. So that's kind of one thing is, yeah, you got to use all these things to be able to dismiss some claims and make, your own conclusions or try and find out what the truth is here.
Yeah.
And, and a few other examples. Like, a lot of people say, maybe a door that we have, it's swinging open or closing all the time. Well, that could just be that it wasn't put in right. Or maybe that things aren't level, or you're on some kind of hill, and just how your house was built, maybe it was built slanted down, and so your doors are just going to keep falling open.
There's a crack in your foundation, and air's getting in. I don't know.
Yeah.
That one's probably...
So there's a lot of things that don't have anything to do with spiritual activity, and more to do with just other issues, usually just the fault of people. So that's why skeptics want to get to the bottom of every single claim, and they want to try and find concrete answers. And with a lot of the stuff, you will find that. Now, cynics is another idea that we got to keep here. So, no amount of evidence will ever satisfy a real cynic. I mean, Jesus Christ, as I'm going to read this part here. Jesus Christ could walk into a crowded room and start handing out loaves of bread and fishes, and the cynic would believe that witnesses have been given a mass hypnotic suggestion. So, these kinds of people, they're just going to dismiss every single thing that isn't their own belief and that they can't prove with hard evidence right away. So a lot of self-claimed skeptics in the field are nothing more than just a bunch of cynical people who just want to try and speak a little bit louder and try to intimidate those who actually have the experience and believe in paranormal. They're just trying to ruin everything for everybody. Because, as you've kind of heard me say, we work in love and light. We don't work with darkness. And frankly, when we're there, you got to put all personal views aside. So let's say, maybe you don't get along with every single person there. Well, it doesn't matter. You keep going. You're there for a common thing. So,
okay.
Yeah, so you can't be belittling other people with this if you're being a cynic or a skeptic. But, yeah. Now, both of them question, and both do doubt a lot of things that will come. Now, skeptics will see the truth, and they will try and make their own thoughts with it. Like I said, the cynic will only try to make you change your statement that you've made or your belief in something to their own. So that's one thing that you kind of need to understand, is there is that difference. And like I said, any investigator, a good investigator, will keep an open mind. And it doesn't mean that you have to believe in every single thing, but at least hear what the claims are and then try and make your own factual belief. That's what you really want to do. Because ultimately, if you're there on behalf of a client, like let's say somebody comes in and says, hey, I want you to check out my house because we've been having all this stuff there. You don't want to completely have it be one thing or another.
What do you mean by that? Like one thing or another?
So, you want to hear all the claims and repeat them back to the client to verify that you know everything, but then also begin to break down the facts as you know them. So this way, giving the client an understanding of the facts.
And then maybe reconsider whether or not maybe this is or is not.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because by the end of your investigation, you want to go back to your client with the best facts that you can. Whether that was, oh yeah, your banging in the wall isn't a ghost. It's a mouse that's been building a nest in there for 3 months. Or, oh, that sound that you're hearing, it's not actually somebody clawing down the linoleum in your hallway or something. It's your cat running around playing with a toy at 3 a.m. I'm making that statement just because my cat does that all the time. So, if an evaluation of the claims and you still can't find an explanations for it, then it's time to pursue a more in-depth second investigation involving more of the team or the client and their family, that kind of stuff. But the plan is that the entire idea of investigators is you're here to educate people about common false positives that create more hauntings when in fact they really aren't. So you investigate on your own, eliminate many of the misleading circumstances that people try and say are a haunting. And then go in, if you have to do another investigation for things, then yeah, you do.
It took me a second when you said false positive, but
yeah.
I think because it's like, because they're creating like a false sense of like, now, oh, this is what.
And see, being a skeptic, you really want to. I mean, it's a very important tool to be a skeptic with a lot of things, because it's showing the client, or it's showing whoever you're there for. It could just be the other team members, that you are methodical in your process. You also kind of have more of an intelligence with that, because you are taking all the different stories. Because you might have one person saying, oh, I think this is Aunt Betty. Here's why I think it's Aunt Betty. Oh, no, this is actually Grandma Lucy. This is why I believe it to be Grandma Lucy. And then, for all you know, it could be Great Aunt Paulette or something. And it's neither of them. So you take all that stuff and kind of lay it down.
Yeah.
And that's where your skepticism comes in. And it can be very thoughtful and intelligent.
Lays out everything on a silver platter, so to speak.
Even those who do believe want you to feel as if you are more, like, in awe of the situation than they are. But really you want to convey a sense of confidence that answers can and will be found through.
Mm.
And I'm just reading here. Yeah, so there's been a lot more reports according to this book, by groups that are overzealous and only want to prove the existence. Or zealous, yeah, sorry.
No, you're fine. I just wanted to make sure I heard that right.
Yeah, they want to try and prove the existence of the paranormal. So you're going to have some groups that will come and be, oh yeah, this is all paranormal. This is what this is, blah, blah, blah. When really, no. No, it's not.
Okay.
So you want to keep that open mind. And I'm just going to say this right now. If you are going into the paranormal field for fame or fortune or, to make
it glory.
Yeah. You're in the wrong business. You are not here to make a name for yourself. You're not here to do all that kind of stuff. A lot of the investigators who I've gotten to know and other ones that I see, you can kind of tell the difference.
I was going to say, have you met any wannabe glory seekers or what have you?
I've seen people who want to be glory seekers in the paranormal, and then I've also seen investigators who have received fame, but they never sought it.
Okay.
So, for instance, another person who I look up to very much is the great Dan Clace, who is up in Hinsdale, New York. Dan is a phenomenal investigator.
Skeptic, like how you.
Well, I was gonna say he's a cheeky SOB at times, just because. Did I show you the footage, the raw footage from the? Oh no, I didn't. I showed that to.
About to say I have no record.
I showed it to a buddy of mine.
Okay.
To somebody else. No, so from some footage of when we were at Kane Manor, and I used some of the footage. I just took out the audio for telling that story. He was making a couple jokes. And I was like, get out of here.
Couple jibes. Yeah,
he was poking the stick at me a little bit. Like, okay, I'm going to mess with you.
Poke the bear.
Yeah.
No.
And, I love him. And looking at that footage again, it was kind of funny. Though he's somebody who has gotten a lot of recognition because of what he does in the paranormal field. Also owning the Hinsdale House, which is a very haunted... a very highly active house up in Hinsdale, New York, even connections with Native American spirits. So he gets a lot of respect from me for that, and he's very well known because of his work with that kind of stuff, as well as different books or stuff that he's done. But did he ever seek out to do all that stuff for the fame? No.
I'm sorry, I was about to make a snide remark. You just said the Hinsdale House, which is a house, and I was like, ah, yes, the floor here is made out of floor. You're really considering coming over here and just hitting me with that book.
Yes, I am. Yes, I am. So, getting back to this, if you're in the field here to, make a name for yourself or try to actually prove that there is or isn't an existence of paranormal, you're in it for the wrong business, for the wrong reasons.
I feel like you need to put in the anecdote of for malicious intent when it comes to proving them, because like you said proving paranormal.
Why I didn't is because that's actually another big thing, and that's again goes with skepticism. Is not all paranormal. In fact, like
I'm saying
98% of paranormal is not bad.
No, I'm saying proving, like, the person who's trying to prove the paranormal has malicious intent.
It could be.
Or quote-unquote malicious intent.
It could be malicious, it could be cynical, but yeah. So, like I was saying, the real reason you should be in this is to educate yourself and others. Do it in a respectful way, using common sense when approaching people dealing with different paranormal issues. And the field doesn't need a bunch of idiots looking to become big shots. So, yeah. I mean, really, it's the respect that will go a long way to help you and your group with having investigations and being able to be respected in so many ways. And remaining even-tempered, logical, and always represent the team with patience, kindness, healthy dose of skepticism. You'll be going far with it. So, starting off there, I know this is kind of going to be a longer episode, just because I wanted to really get the idea of skepticism out of the way.
I was going to say, because like we went really, really far into skepticism.
Yeah.
More so than I was expecting, at least.
Yeah, so we will... Well, I mean, we're probably getting close to, like, 40 minutes. Would you rather start talking about, like, the different forms of paranormal next episode, or do you want to jump into it?
Honestly, I was, like... We had, like, the structure of, like, oh, maybe we go by chapter, or by important topic.
Yeah.
Like, what we deemed as important topics to, like, jump off. I think potentially stopping here, like...
Yeah. And see, I'm not going to, like... You were talking about chapter for chapter.
Yeah.
Again, I also don't know what we can't all use for...
I mean, that's fair.
Yeah, copyright.
Like,
really looking into... There's a lot of different things here that... A lot of this, what I was telling you with the skepticism, I read over this, and I used very little bit, kind of general ideas, but a lot of it I'm giving my own personal...
There's probably a whole buttload of text in there.
Oh, there is.
One, we can't say, and two, if we read the whole thing, nobody's going to listen to that.
Right. Well, and see, I'm also giving personal views from this that I was taught by Holly separately, or came from being on the investigations and everything.
Yeah, your anecdotes and what have you.
Yeah. So, okay, then you know what? Yeah, let's do that. So let's have this episode be skepticism in paranormal, and then we'll go into some of the other different things for the future episodes, because we still have, like I said, all the different kinds of hauntings and spirits. There's all the tech. There's do's and don'ts, different other things.
Yeah, I was expecting to get right into the classification stuff, but I mean, like, skepticism is a good place to jump off. Actually,
it's a good
introduce.
It's a good way to start in because of who we are.
Yeah,
I'm the one that's the big believer. You're the more skeptic one.
I was gonna say, for me, it was mainly because of who I am. So
it amazes me that it took us this long to actually do this, because this is actually a great idea. So, guys, I have to give full credit to Jacob for this.
I was going to say
his idea.
Sorry to cut you off.
No, you're good.
I was fully. It's probably on camera in our past episodes where it's like I want to do more of this because I feel like
I think we talked about that off camera.
Off camera, I think a little bit on camera, maybe, but like I wanted to do this because, one, I wanted to understand more about it, because just by listening to this not out of context, because
hearing me use all the language, using the terms,
but even then being a little bit familiar with it all, and like actually sitting down and listening to it, I'm like, this is a bunch of baloney. It sounds like, and I don't want it to sound harsh or anything, because I'm just sitting here thinking like. That exact thing, because
I'm not going to smack you with the book for saying that it's baloney.
Okay, but like it I shouldn't say baloney, because again that sounds rude, but it's more or less like this sounds so out there that I'm like I used to,
and it's because you're a skeptic and you're not used to being so much into this world.
I'm more into the mysticism of it. I've known a bit of the scientific, but again, I was more into the mysticism and all this scientific stuff just doesn't seem right.
Right.
Yeah, you're basically right about my stance, honestly.
Yeah. Now, so let's actually end it there, and then we'll get more into it as we continue to do these episodes.
I just realized I can't do my salute. I can't do my salute. No.
Okay, so Jake goes over and cries in the corner of the radio station here. Guys, tune in next week. We'll either be back with another story, or we'll be back here again, depending on weather, to bring you guys kind of more in depth with working in the paranormal. One way or another, we're going to be unearthing the unknown a whole lot more. So stick around, stay tuned for next week. We'll see you guys then.
Thanks for watching, y'all.
Go back to crying in the corner.
Hey there, listeners. I'm Matt Boyer, station manager of WSVC Radio. If you like what you're listening to, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell button to be notified with all of our updates. Every day, one of our shows will be releasing a new episode. Stick around and tune in.